Tonight, we're stepping into a world built on static and light, where shadows bend, stars vanish, and maybe the greatest achievement in human history was filmed on a soundstage. Before you get cozy, hit like and subscribe, but only if you're the kind of person who enjoys chasing impossible questions in the dark. Now, lights low, mind open. Let's see where this story takes us tonight. You're sitting in a living room bathed in television glow. It's July 1969, and the air smells of popcorn, ozone, and collective hope. A grainy figure drifts across the screen in slow motion. That's one small step for man. The sentence crackles, then hangs in silence long enough to feel holy. For a few seconds, you believe absolutely. Humanity has done it. We've touched the impossible. But somewhere between the heartbeat of applause and the buzz of the TV tubes, a thought flickers. What if what we saw wasn't what happened? That idea has lived for decades, hiding in whispers, surfacing whenever the world starts doubting itself. Tonight, you follow it, not as a cynic, but as a curious witness wandering through history's strangest rehearsal. The broadcast that changed Earth was anything but simple. The signal leapt from the moon to a dish in Australia, then bounced across continents before reaching your screen. Somewhere in that relay, the original slow-scan tape, clearer than anything you've ever seen, was erased, recorded over. NASA says it was an accident, others call it convenient. You study the footage again. The flag ripples, though there's no wind. The shadows stretch in odd directions. The stars? Gone. It's easy to shrug it off as physics, exposure, or camera limits. But the longer you stare, the more you feel the weight of performance, the precision, the choreography, the need for perfection. A quirky historical footnote: when the astronauts returned, they were quarantined inside a silver trailer, smiling through the glass as doctors watched for alien microbes. One of them joked, "If we glow in the dark, you'll know why." The humor masked exhaustion and something else: secrecy. Historians still debate whether NASA's missing tapes were lost to bureaucracy or buried by design. Some claim they were reused to record satellite weather data. Others whisper that they were too revealing. The mystery isn't proof of deception, but it's a perfect vacuum where doubt thrives. You remember the tension of that era, the Cold War ticking like a doomsday clock. America needed a miracle. The moon landing wasn't just exploration, it was therapy for a fractured world. Maybe that's why the footage feels dreamlike, as if filmed inside collective need rather than scientific reality. And that's where this story begins, not in conspiracy, but in the fragile space between faith and footage, between what you want to believe and what you can't unsee. You close your eyes and hear the broadcast's low hiss fade into silence. The glow of the screen becomes the glow of the moon, and somewhere between them, truth flickers, half light, half illusion. You drift through static, grainy, weightless, infinite. The moon hums like an idea just out of reach, and Earth spins beneath you, blue and stubbornly alive. In the quiet, you start to wonder, if this was all a show, who wrote the script? It's 1962. John F. Kennedy stands beneath a glaring Texas sun, declaring that America will go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. The crowd roars, but behind the speeches and optimism, scientists are terrified. The rockets fail more often than they fly. The technology to land on the moon doesn't exist yet. Even the idea of broadcasting a live feed from space sounds like magic.
NASA was racing against both physics and politics. The Soviets had already humiliated the US with Sputnik, then Gagarin. America needed something bigger, something divine. And in the background, the whisper of theater began. If we can't get there first, what if we just make it look like we did? You don't have to believe it. Just imagine being there, in an age when everything was possible and failure was unthinkable. A Cold War built on paranoia, pride, and propaganda. The moon wasn't just a rock, it was a mirror, reflecting power back to whoever claimed it first. A quirky fact, Stanley Kubrick was shooting 2001: A Space Odyssey in 1968, using NASA lenses designed for Apollo cameras. The realism was so perfect that when Apollo 11 aired a year later, even Kubrick's lighting crew joked, "We could have filmed that." Conspiracy theorists would later run with that line like it was gospel. Historians still argue whether NASA borrowed cinematic techniques from Kubrick or if it was just parallel innovation. But the coincidence is delicious. The greatest filmmaker of realism and the greatest feat of humanity, sharing tools, timing, and tone. Meanwhile, inside NASA, the pressure was unbearable. Engineers slept under desks. Calculations were done by hand. The risk of failure was astronomical. One wrong number and the crew wouldn't return, not even as debris. For a government desperate to win, failure wasn't an option. Illusion, however, illusion was always available. You picture a darkened hangar somewhere in Nevada. Massive projectors, lunar dust simulated from desert sand, a soundstage bathed in blinding white light. It's just an image, one born from rumor and imagination, but it feels unsettlingly plausible. Because humans love control, and the idea of controlling the moon itself is intoxicating. But then the paradox hits. If it was fake, it would have required an army of actors, technicians, pilots, scientists, and bureaucrats, all sworn to silence for half a century. Could humans really keep a secret that long? That's the first great divide in this story, the psychological leap between possible and plausible. Historians still debate whether Apollo's triumph was too perfect to believe or simply too good to repeat. After all, the US never went back after 1972. 6 missions, 12 men, and then nothing. Not a return flight for 50 years. It's the kind of pause that breeds doubt. You imagine NASA's final press conference of that era. Scientists smiling, cameras flashing, everyone pretending that the future was limitless. But behind the optimism was exhaustion. The world had moved on. The moon no longer offered victory. It offered only questions. And that's when the conspiracy began to solidify. Because when wonder fades, doubt takes its place. You float above the lunar surface now, seeing it the way they saw it, or claimed to. A void of silence, stars erased by exposure, Earth hanging like an ornament in eternal darkness. If it was a set, it was perfect. If it was real, it was poetry. And somehow, it could be both.
You drift downward now, through the darkness of space and into the flicker of a television studio. It's the 1970s, and grainy footage still fills living rooms across the world. You can almost feel the static, the hypnotic hum of cathode light as the astronauts bounce across the surface, their voices slightly delayed, ghost-like. It's beautiful, but it's also strangely theatrical. Too perfect, too cinematic. You catch yourself wondering how something that monumental could look so staged.
Rumors start small. A few letters to newspapers, some radio chatter. Then a filmmaker named Bill Kaysing, a former NASA contractor turned skeptic, published We Never Went to the Moon in 1974. He calls it the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on mankind. His claim? That NASA faked the entire mission in a desert hangar funded by the government, filmed under secrecy so intense it rivaled nuclear research. Most dismissed him as eccentric, but the timing was perfect. America was disillusioned. Vietnam, Watergate, 1,000 cracks in the dream. People wanted to believe something sinister had been hiding in plain sight. Kaysing didn't offer hard evidence. He offered something more potent: narrative. Every anomaly, the flag's ripple, the missing stars, the 2 clean footprints, became puzzle pieces. And once the public saw the pattern, they couldn't unsee it. Quirky fact: NASA's own PR team inadvertently fueled suspicion. They released thousands of photos without context. Different missions, mixed lighting, retouched exposure levels. To scientists, it was routine archiving. To skeptics, it was an inconsistency. Historians still argue whether NASA's secrecy was strategic or just bureaucratic chaos. Either way, it gave conspiracy theorists oxygen. You picture Kaysing's typewriter hammering through the night, every keystroke forging a modern myth. He wasn't just accusing NASA, he was rewriting history. And in that sense, he succeeded. His book sparked decades of documentaries, radio shows, and arguments that would outlive him. And perhaps that's where the story becomes something larger than its subject. Because even if the moon landing were fake, the belief in its fakeness became real, a cultural monument of its own. You can feel that paradox pressing against your chest. Humans are the only species capable of lying to themselves and then building religions around those lies. In 1976, the Fox television special Did We Land on the Moon reignited the fire. It was sleek, dramatic, edited with the rhythm of a thriller. Millions tuned in. By the next morning, NASA's hotline was flooded with angry calls demanding answers. For the first time, the agency had to defend the idea of reality itself. Historians still argue whether the show was entertainment or disinformation, but the damage was done. The moon, once a symbol of unity, had become a battlefield of belief. You drift higher again, leaving the noise behind, watching Earth from above. The irony hits you like solar wind. The greatest technological triumph in history has been reduced to a question mark. And you can't help thinking that maybe that's what makes it timeless. Because the moment you doubt the moon landing, you're not just questioning history. You're questioning humanity's ability to tell the truth about anything. The edges of the moon blur beneath you, shifting between studio lights and crater shadows. Whether real or staged, one truth remains unshakable. Humans will always need the impossible to feel alive. You hover now in the faint glow of Earthlight, caught between what was filmed and what was lived. The line between history and imagination is thin, so thin that sometimes even scientists stumble across it without noticing. It's 1969 again, and the astronauts are still drifting through the vacuum, performing for billions of eyes. You can almost hear the hum of their life support, the metallic clicks of switches, the crackle of static between Houston and the moon. Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. The words echo like scripture. But here's where things get strange. Behind every great moment in history, there's a back room full of footage that never aired. NASA recorded hours of raw video, test transmissions and rehearsals, practice shots meant to calibrate lighting and timing. Some of that footage leaked years later, showing astronauts running drills in simulators or repeating scripted communication sequences. For skeptics, that was gold. If it's real, they asked, why rehearse? Of course, NASA had an answer. Training was survival. Every contingency, every emergency, every second was scripted because death was only ever a heartbeat away. But you can't help noticing how similar the training looked to the final broadcast. A quirky fact, during the Apollo 11 mission, NASA accidentally aired a private channel for a few seconds, one meant for engineers, not the public. The voices were calm, rehearsed, technical. But that brief leak sparked rumors that there was a second feed, a control broadcast, guiding what the world saw. It was debunked decades later, yet the damage was permanent. Once people hear something that sounds like a secret, they never unhear it. Historians still argue whether NASA's communication blunders were innocent or signs of deeper control. In the fog of history, every glitch becomes evidence, every silence becomes a clue. You descend again toward the lunar surface. The shadows stretch impossibly long. The flag shivers without wind. And you notice there are no stars. None. Just black infinity. Photographers later explained that the camera's exposure couldn't capture both the bright surface and faint stars at once. Perfectly reasonable. But you can see why the public wasn't convinced. The footage looked too clean, too deliberate, like a set lit for television. And that's when the whispers start invoking Hollywood. Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey had premiered just a year before the moon landing, redefining what real space looked like. The lighting, the dust, the eerie silence, it all felt eerily familiar. Rumor had it that NASA approached Kubrick himself to consult on how to depict lunar realism. Kubrick denied it, but denial is the soil in which legend grows. Historians still debate the coincidence of timing, but the parallel is poetic. Humanity's greatest fiction arrived just before humanity's greatest fact, and no one could tell them apart. You close your eyes for a moment, letting that irony wash over you. Maybe the moon landing isn't remembered for what it proved, but for how perfectly it blurred the line between what's real and what's possible. Somewhere between film reels and telemetry logs, between desert training grounds and Houston control rooms, the truth floats, weightless, eternal, untouchable. You drift closer to the surface, your boots just inches above the dust. You feel the pull of gravity, faint but undeniable. Whether it's the moon's or the imagination's, you can't quite tell. And then you take one small step. Not onto lunar soil, but into the gray space where belief begins to wobble.
The dust beneath you doesn't behave like Earth's. It clings to your boots, refuses to scatter, and glows under light that has no warmth. The air, well, there isn't any, but somehow you think you hear a hum, faint and mechanical. A stage light, or maybe the heartbeat of the moon itself. The first thing you notice is how the footage never shows stars. Not once. Just a blank void. For years, that tiny absence has fueled endless debate. NASA says it's camera exposure, the same reason you can't see stars in a daylight photograph. But that logic feels too neat, too convenient. Skeptics insist the stars were left out on purpose, because including them would have made the hoax harder to fake. The constellations, after all, could have betrayed the illusion. Historians still argue whether the missing stars reveal technical limits or deliberate omission. But in the quiet of your imagination, both feel true. And then there's the famous photograph, the one of Buzz Aldrin standing still while Neil Armstrong takes the shot. In his visor, the reflection of the lunar module, the photographer, the horizon, and something else. A strange shadow, a shape that conspiracy forums swear is a spotlight rig. Scientists say it's just a lens flare. But every time you look at that image, your eyes linger on that glint of mystery. Tiny, bright, and entirely human. A quirky fact, that reflective visor photo wasn't planned. It was taken instinctively, a moment of composition in a world without up or down. Yet somehow, it became one of the most iconic images of the 20th century. Proof or production still, depending on who you ask. You float through this paradox, realizing that the moon landing hoax isn't just about evidence, it's about aesthetics. People don't trust it because it looks too good, too balanced, too cinematic. Real life is messy, unpredictable, flawed. The moon landing, in contrast, felt edited, like history had been airbrushed before it even happened. In 1969, NASA's film technicians faced impossible conditions. Harsh light, infinite shadows, temperature swings that could melt film. Yet the footage is flawless. No visible stars, no camera fogging, no distortion. Just pristine imagery of mankind conquering the void. Skeptics call it improbable. Engineers call it planning. You drift across the Sea of Tranquility, the famous descent site. The footprints are still there. No wind, no rain, no erosion. Each one a fossil of faith. Some researchers even claim that the shape of those prints couldn't exist in Earth gravity, that their crispness proves lunar dust behaves differently. Ironically, that fact alone supports the mission's authenticity. But the hoax believers flip it upside down. It's too perfect, they say. A studio could sculpt that. Historians still argue whether the moon landing became the first victim of postmodernism, the moment truth stopped mattering as much as narrative. Because once people learned to question the evidence lost its power. A chill runs through you. Maybe the conspiracy isn't about faking a moon landing, it's about faking certainty. Humanity reached so far that it accidentally broke its own sense of trust. You imagine the control room in Houston, rows of engineers, blinking lights, paper printouts rolling like ancient scrolls. Each heartbeat of telemetry data proving line by line that humans were there. But outside that room, the world started believing something else entirely. That's when the story stops being about NASA and becomes about us. Because when you doubt the moon landing, what you're really doubting is humanity's ability to tell the truth when ambition is on the line. The static hums louder now. You tilt your head, unsure if it's feedback or heartbeat. The line between them dissolves like dust in sunlight. You can still hear the static, the soft hiss between transmissions. But now it's layered with something else. Voices, overlapping, urgent. Houston calling, Buzz replying, Neil adjusting oxygen levels. The sound of precision under pressure. Every syllable rehearsed, every second logged. You realize that for a hoax this large to work, everything would have to be scripted. Every delay, every error, every stutter. And the strangest thing is, it already was. NASA's communication protocol was built on simulation. Before Apollo 11, astronauts spent thousands of hours running mock missions. They practiced every failure imaginable: fuel leaks, comms loss, system crashes. There were even pre-recorded segments for contingency broadcasts in case the crew died on the surface. The famous speech that would have ended the space age, written for Nixon, still sits in the archives. It begins, "Fate has ordained that the men who went to the moon shall remain on the moon." You shiver hearing those words, not because they're dark, but because they're real. Proof that even success had death scripted in advance. A quirky fact, before Apollo 11, NASA filmed dozens of simulation reels to test camera exposure, lighting, and transmission stability. Most of that footage was never meant for the public. But years later, when snippets surfaced without explanation, conspiracy theorists pounced. They rehearsed the landing before it happened, they claimed. And technically, they were right. Historians still argue whether those rehearsal tapes were misfiled or intentionally suppressed. But to someone searching for deception, every missing label looks like a cover-up. You hover above the lunar surface now, listening to Armstrong and Aldrin's recorded dialogue. The surface is fine and powdery. We're going to proceed with the flag. Their tone is oddly casual, like two mechanics working overtime. Skeptics cite that calm as proof. It sounds too composed for history in the making. But astronauts are trained to sound like machines under pressure. That's what survival requires. Still, there's something haunting about how measured their voices are, like two men performing for a world they can't see. You drift toward the famous moment, the planting of the flag. The pole resists the ground. The fabric trembles unnaturally. Millions saw it flutter. Theories exploded overnight. Wind, people said. Impossible. NASA explained the L-shaped rod. Demonstrations proved it. Yet even the truth couldn't erase the doubt. Once disbelief enters the bloodstream, it doesn't die. It mutates. Historians still debate whether NASA underestimated how people would feel watching the footage. Logic was irrelevant. Emotion ruled. The moon landing wasn't just a scientific event. It was a performance. And like all performances, it left room for interpretation. You imagine the control room again, the countdown clock glowing, the air thick with adrenaline. Engineers chain-smoking, eyes glued to telemetry screens. At that moment, the mission was both a miracle and a gamble. If anything went wrong, the broadcast would have turned into a televised funeral. Perhaps that's why so many assume they'd never risk it live. But what if the truth is simpler? What if humanity just got lucky? That rare moment when genius, funding, fear, and fate aligned perfectly. Sometimes the improbable really does happen. But the human brain doesn't like that answer. It wants narrative, not randomness. That's the curse of brilliance. When you achieve something unbelievable, people stop believing you. You drift higher, watching the gray surface shrink below. Somewhere in that stillness, you can almost hear the echo of every question ever asked about that night. The kind that doesn't want answers, only stories. And the moon, patient and pale, seems to whisper back, "You believed me once. Why not again?" The moon is silent again, but your mind isn't. You're caught between awe and doubt, between the static of transmission and the silence of space. Maybe that's why this story never dies. It feeds on both. You drift through time now to the early 1970s, when America had supposedly conquered the impossible. 6 missions, 12 men, 842 pounds of lunar rock. Triumph, science, glory. And then, abruptly, it stopped. No more moon landings after 1972. Think about that. Humanity masters space travel, proves it can reach another world, and then simply loses interest? Skeptics call it suspicious. NASA calls it budget cuts. Both explanations feel oddly unsatisfying. You picture the public reaction at the time. Less jubilation, more fatigue. Vietnam, inflation, political chaos. The moon no longer symbolized victory, it symbolized cost. Billions spent to touch a desert in the sky. The government, once proud of Apollo, began quietly shelving it away. A quirky fact: Apollo 18, 19, and 20 were planned, funded, and ready, but canceled last minute. Their rockets never flew. Some say it was financial. Others whisper that they did fly, unofficially, and what they found wasn't meant for the public. The so-called Apollo 20 hoax even claimed a secret mission recovered alien artifacts. NASA denied it, of course, but the rumor stuck. Historians still argue whether that story was a prank or an early example of viral mythology. Either way, it taught the world something important. Once you mix mystery with machinery, people believe anything. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the moon landing wasn't the start of a conspiracy, but the seed of everyone that came after. Because after 1969, reality began to fracture. Technology advanced faster than trust. Government secrets became currency. By the time Watergate broke, the phrase "official story" had already become a joke. You hover above the gray surface, watching the ghostly tracks of rovers and footprints still frozen in the dust. They'll be there for millions of years. Proof? Maybe. Or props. Depends on who's looking. You try to imagine the alternative, the logistics of a fake so massive. Thousands of engineers, contractors, camera crews. The hardware alone would have taken half the population of California to fabricate. And yet, people believe it, because it's easier to accept a lie orchestrated by men than a miracle executed by them. Historians still debate whether this distrust came from trauma or technology. Maybe both. The moon landing was the first global broadcast to merge government, television, and spectacle. It proved that reality could be produced. After that, every event, wars, speeches, disasters, would be measured not in truth, but in how well it played on screen. You float higher, Earth gleaming beneath you, blue and indifferent. If the moon landing was real, it means humans touched something eternal. If it was fake, it means humans mastered illusion itself. Either way, it's a kind of divinity. You start to feel that creeping sensation of paradox again, the sense that truth isn't binary, that the moon landing can be both fact and myth, both film and miracle, both theater and triumph. And maybe that's why the story endures, because deep down, people don't want the mystery solved. They want it to live, endlessly orbiting, just like the moon. The static fades. You take a breath. Somewhere between skepticism and starlight, the truth waits, not to be proven, but to be felt. You drift backward now, deeper into the dark between memory and myth. Below you, the lunar surface stretches endlessly, unchanging, unblinking, indifferent. Above you, Earth glows with all the noise of civilization, chatter, advertising, politics, and doubt. You can almost hear it humming, a planet addicted to its own uncertainty. In that hum lies the second act of the story. The moon landing conspiracy doesn't stay trapped in the 70s. It mutates, evolving with every new generation of media. What began as whispers in living rooms became talk show debates, then documentaries, then internet gospel. By the 1980s, public trust in institutions had collapsed further. The Cold War wasn't just about nuclear missiles anymore. It was about information control. Governments learned that perception was power. Truth could be edited. Belief could be broadcast. That's when the conspiracy grew teeth. A quirky fact: in 1980, a mockumentary called Alternative 3 aired on British television, claiming NASA faked the moon missions as part of a secret plan to colonize Mars. It was intended as satire, but no one told the audience. Switchboards lit up, newspapers panicked, and the myth bled into reality. Even decades later, some still swear it was the real reason for Apollo's end. Historians still argue whether Alternative 3 was a clever critique of the media or the accidental birth of modern paranoia. Either way, it planted a seed. That television could no longer be trusted. You hover over the lunar craters again, seeing them differently now, not as geological features, but as metaphors. Each crater is a void where certainty once stood. In the 1990s, cable television gave the conspiracy its first global platform. Shows like Sightings and Unsolved Mysteries gave airtime to moon skeptics, blurring lines between documentary and entertainment. NASA's silence only deepened suspicion. Officials saw no need to defend what they considered obvious truth. But silence in the age of television sounds like guilt. And then came the 2001 Fox special, Conspiracy Theory: Did We Land on the Moon? A masterpiece of suspense and misdirection. Dramatic music, selective editing, ominous narration. It played like a thriller, and it worked. Millions of viewers finished the broadcast not convinced, but unsettled. Historians still debate whether NASA underestimated how deeply television could reshape memory. The agency responded with facts, but the facts couldn't compete with the feeling of being deceived. Emotion beats data every time. You drift through the glow of that realization, like starlight through water. The moon landing was no longer a scientific achievement. It was a narrative, constantly rewritten by whoever held the microphone. You imagine a late-night living room somewhere in 1999. A man rewinds a VHS tape, squinting at blurry shadows on the lunar footage. "See," he whispers, "that's not natural light." His child sits beside him, watching quietly, halfway between belief and boredom. A generation later, that child will grow up to scroll through Reddit threads asking the same questions. The myth isn't just inherited, it's evolved. And here's the strangest twist. The more NASA defends itself, the stronger the myth becomes. Skepticism thrives on resistance. Each debunk fuels the belief that they're hiding something. It's not about evidence anymore, it's about belonging. The moon hoax has become a kind of religion, faith inverted. Its believers aren't searching for truth, they're protecting it. You look down again at the desolate landscape frozen in sunlight. If it's real, it's a graveyard of proof. If it's fake, it's the most elaborate illusion in history.
Either way, the result is the same. Humanity learned that reality itself could be questioned, and once that door opens, it never closes again.
The moon below is quiet, a place beyond politics or pride. But you're not in space anymore. You're in a basement filled with humming computers, cables tangled like roots, and the flicker of a dial-up modem connecting to something vast and invisible, the early internet. It's the mid-1990s, and for the first time in history, anyone can publish a theory. Anyone can rewrite the truth. The moon landing conspiracy, once fringe, explodes into 1,000 mirrors. Forums, message boards, and personal websites become the new launch pads for doubt. You open a primitive web page, black background, neon text, scrolling stars. The title blinks, NASA lies, the truth they don't want you to know. There's the flag flapping, the missing stars, the fake shadows. It's the same evidence as before, just newly electrified. A quirky fact, one of the earliest viral moon hoax pages was built by a man in rural Illinois using a dial-up modem and a free hosting site. Within weeks, it had millions of hits. Conspiracy had gone digital, and suddenly, NASA wasn't fighting skeptics, it was fighting algorithms. Historians still argue whether the internet democratized truth or demolished it. But what's undeniable is that the moon landing was the perfect myth for the digital age. It had mystery, authority, and nostalgia, and above all, it had imagery. You scroll through scanned photos, grainy footprints, gleaming helmets, black skies. Each pixel becomes a battlefield. One side says evidence, the other says fabrication. The comment threads stretch endlessly like modern scripture. And the internet, being what it is, rewards suspicion. Outrage travels faster than accuracy. The louder the claim, the further it flies. Suddenly, the moon landing isn't just history, it's a meme. You hover above this new kind of gravity, where truth bends under attention. In one tab, a debunking video. In another, a 20-minute clip with ominous music claiming Kubrick left clues in The Shining. People freeze frames, point to the room 237 door, whisper about the Apollo 11 sweater. It's absurd, and yet captivating. You realize you've spent hours scrolling. You don't even believe the theory, but you can't stop watching. That's the genius of it. The conspiracy doesn't demand belief, it demands participation. Historians still debate whether that's how modern myth is born, not through faith, but through engagement. Every time you click, comment, or argue, the story grows. And that's when the narrative shifts again, from suspicion to entertainment. Documentaries emerge, podcasts dissect the footage, comedians riff on it, artists remix it. The moon landing becomes cultural currency, a way to signal skepticism, irony, intelligence. "You really think they did it?" someone says at a party, half joking, half serious. The laughter feels rehearsed. And maybe it is. You drift back to the surface of the moon in your mind. It's the same landscape, the same silence. But now it feels smaller. Not because the moon changed, but because the story surrounding it grew too large to fit in your head. You look down at your reflection in a polished visor. In it, the whole Earth gleams, billions of people arguing, doubting, remembering. The reflection wavers, like film projected on a screen. A final quirky twist. In 2002, Buzz Aldrin was confronted by a man demanding he swear on a Bible that he really went to the moon. Aldrin refused and punched him. The footage went viral decades before viral was a thing. And just like that, even the astronauts became characters in their own myth. Historians still argue whether Aldrin's reaction was anger or exhaustion. But you know better. It was the frustration of someone who spent his life walking on a world that half his species still insists doesn't exist. You exhale slowly, the sound like static fading through a signal too old to trust. Maybe the truth doesn't live on the moon anymore. Maybe it lives here, between your screen's glow and the dark beyond it.
You can feel it now, the way the story keeps orbiting itself, looping through decades like a transmission bouncing endlessly between Earth and Moon. Each generation rediscovers the same question: did we really go? And each time, the evidence hasn't changed, but the context has. You float through the early 2000s, when YouTube is still new, when low-resolution clips of the Apollo missions are uploaded and dissected like sacred text. Zoom-ins on shadows, frame-by-frame analysis of Armstrong's descent, slow-motion breakdowns of the flag. Each creator claims discovery, and each discovery looks identical to the one made 30 years before. But now it's wrapped in jump cuts, suspenseful music, and flashing text. It's not history anymore, it's content. Quirky fact, the first moon landing video uploaded to YouTube in 2005 has over 50 million views today. The first Moon Hoax Explained video? Over 100 million. Doubt outperforms truth. That's not conspiracy, that's just the algorithm doing what it does best. Historians still argue whether the internet's design favors deception or if humans just prefer mystery to certainty. Either way, skepticism sells. You drift past data centers glowing like cities in the night, their servers humming, each one storing every theory, every argument, every debunking. The truth is no longer out there. It's cached, archived, and monetized. And yet, through all of it, the actual moon sits in silence. Apollo landing sites photographed by modern satellites show footprints, rover trails, the bases of the descent stages, hard evidence from orbit. But for every photograph released, 1,000 new comments appear. Photoshopped, CGI, fake news. The doubt evolves faster than the proof. You hover in that strange new vacuum, the digital one, where attention is oxygen and belief is currency. People no longer ask, what's real? They ask, what gets engagement? Historians still debate whether we've entered a new kind of space race, not between nations, but between narratives. NASA versus YouTube, scientists versus influencers, truth versus click-through rate. And then a strange realization hits you. The moon landing hoax is no longer about the moon. It's about us. You remember the moment in 1969 when Armstrong stepped down that ladder, and for a few minutes the world shared a single heartbeat. One collective gasp across continents. The last time truth felt universal. You close your eyes and picture it again. The static, the grain, the slow drift of a human silhouette framed against the void. You can almost hear the applause through the walls of history. And maybe that's why the hoax persists. People want to return to that moment, to rewrite it, to own it. Quirky aside, some psychologists suggest conspiracy theories fill a void where wonder used to live. When the world feels too vast, too indifferent, people look for stories that make them central again. If the moon landing was fake, then humanity didn't lose control. We created the illusion. And that, in a strange way, is comforting. You can't help smiling at the irony. Maybe the real hoax isn't that NASA faked the landing, it's that people keep pretending certainty exists at all. The truth is quieter, subtler, harder to brand. Somewhere between Houston and the Sea of Tranquility, between light and shadow, lies the unmarketable reality of human effort. Imperfection, brilliance, failure, courage. You feel yourself drifting again, higher this time, above both worlds, the dusty silence of the moon and the noisy glow of Earth. Both real, both spinning, both full of stories. And down there on that small blue planet, someone is still typing. But what if NASA lied? And maybe you'll smile just a little, knowing the question itself is what keeps the story alive.
You drift through the digital haze, through the glow of monitors and pixels, through the quiet hum of disbelief. The moon is distant now, less a destination and more a rumor. What began as an event has become a belief system, passed down through comment threads and late-night whispers. The strange thing is, belief doesn't require proof, it just requires comfort. You find yourself in an online archive, thousands of documents, interviews, and engineering blueprints from the Apollo program. Real pages, real ink, the meticulous handwriting of people who calculated trajectories by hand. You imagine them bent over desks in Houston, slide rules clattering, coffee rings staining the paper. They weren't magicians, they were engineers, tired, flawed, and brilliant. But in the digital age, even authenticity looks suspicious. If a document exists online, someone assumes it's fabricated. The moon landing, like everything else, has become a victim of its own accessibility. Quirky fact: in 2006, NASA admitted it had lost or taped over the original high-quality footage of the Apollo 11 broadcast. A bureaucratic accident. But to conspiracy theorists, it was vindication. See, they said, they deleted the truth. Historians still argue whether that loss was incompetence or concealment. But deep down, you realize it doesn't matter. Once trust is gone, no explanation sounds innocent. You scroll through transcripts of astronaut interviews. Neil Armstrong, soft-spoken, evasive, almost ghost-like in his distance. Buzz Aldrin, brilliant but volatile, frustrated by the endless accusations. Michael Collins, quietly poetic, orbiting alone, watching the world he'd helped change. Three men who touched eternity and spent the rest of their lives defending it. You imagine their isolation, the silence of the moon replaced by the noise of disbelief. For every applause they earned, there was a whisper behind it. It didn't really happen. Historians still debate whether the emotional toll of disbelief affected Armstrong's reclusiveness. Maybe it did. Maybe it's hard to speak about something sacred when the world insists it was just theater. And that's when you start to understand the deeper story, not of rockets or film reels, but of faith itself. Humans need to believe in something extraordinary. And if they can't believe in triumph, they'll believe in deception. Either way, the world stays magical. You drift back to the Sea of Tranquility. The footprints are still there, undisturbed, sharp as the day they were made. Satellite photos confirm it, but even proof loses its meaning when the debate itself becomes the entertainment. You think about how the moon landing used to unite the planet. For one night, we all looked up together. Now it divides us, each camp defending its version of truth like territory. The same footage that once inspired hope now fuels irony, suspicion, and endless content. A quirky aside, a psychologist once described conspiracy theories as stories that restore control to the powerless. Maybe the real secret isn't that NASA lied, but that people needed it to have lied. Because if the world can be faked, then nothing is truly lost. We're still in charge of the illusion. You hover there in that thought, realizing that this isn't a story about rockets or flags or dust. It's a story of imagination, the most dangerous force humanity ever invented. Historians still argue whether imagination built the Apollo program or the conspiracy that followed. The truth, you suspect, is both. You look up again, the Earth rising above the horizon, soft blue, cloud-swirled, fragile. You wonder if Armstrong saw it and thought, "We'll never top this." Maybe he was right. Because whether the moon landing was real or not, nothing has ever felt as unbelievable since.
The Earth turns slowly below you, glowing like a lantern against infinite dark. The moon drifts farther away now, small and silent, like an idea that humanity once held too tightly. The signal crackles, fades, then stabilizes again, just enough for one more transmission. And this time, what comes through isn't static. It's an echo of wonder mixed with exhaustion. You start to realize every conspiracy about the moon landing says more about the believers than about NASA. Think about it. The theory survives because it's comforting. If the moon landing was faked, then the universe is still small, still manageable. Humanity didn't conquer infinity, we simply filmed a better version of it. The hoax becomes a way to shrink the cosmos back down to something we can understand. But if it was real, then we really did it. We crossed a void no one was meant to cross. We touched something ancient and utterly indifferent. And that's far more terrifying than any government lie. You float in that tension between comfort and cosmic dread. A quirky fact: Buzz Aldrin later described the lunar landscape as magnificent desolation. Two words that sound poetic until you realize they're also deeply lonely. The moon was beautiful, yes, but lifeless, barren, silent. Maybe humans weren't meant to be there. Maybe that's why, after the triumph, the world felt strangely hollow. Historians still argue whether that loneliness crept into the culture. After Apollo, the space program stalled, the public grew restless, and art turned inward. Movies, books, and even music stopped asking, "How far can we go?" and started asking, "What's the point?" You can almost feel that shift, the fading hum of ambition replaced by the soft murmur of disillusionment. The moon landing was supposed to mark the beginning of a new era. Instead, it became the end of innocence. And for conspiracy theorists, that made perfect sense. Of course it was fake, they said. If it had been real, the world wouldn't look this way. Maybe that's the most human logic of all. We measure truth not by evidence, but by emotion. And the moon didn't make us feel triumphant for long. It made us feel small. You drift closer to the lunar surface again, tracing the outlines of the old landing sites. The hardware still sits there, metal glinting in eternal daylight, motionless in a vacuum no sound can fill. A dead museum of humanity's most alive moment. You whisper into the silence, almost afraid to hear your own voice bounce back. Why did we stop going? The question floats, unanswered. Budget cuts, politics, shifting priorities. Yes, those are explanations. But maybe the real reason is simpler. We stopped chasing what scared us. Historians still argue whether Apollo was humanity's greatest step or its most expensive illusion. But standing here, in your mind's quiet orbit, you realize the answer doesn't matter. The truth doesn't change the story, it only changes how you tell it. And maybe that's what NASA misunderstood. Facts are powerful, but stories are immortal. You drift higher, feeling the pull of Earth again. The glow of cities returns, each one humming with electricity, Wi-Fi, and whispered theories. Down there, someone is uploading a new video, claiming to have proof of a hoax. Another person is writing a defense of the astronauts, and another is scrolling through both, not believing either. Because that's what we do. We orbit doubt the way the moon orbits us. And maybe we always will. The Earth's blue shimmer grows brighter beneath you, but you're not falling, you're remembering. Every pixel, every reel, every argument that has ever orbited this story spins beneath your feet like fragments of a film reel caught in gravity. The moon landing conspiracy isn't a question anymore, it's a reflection. You picture a classroom in 2025. A teacher plays the grainy Apollo footage on a projector while students scroll on their phones, half listening, half fact-checking in real time. One student raises a hand and says, "Didn't they fake this?" The teacher sighs, and you can almost feel it, the quiet collapse of shared truth. The original moon landing footage was meant to unite the world. Now it divides it. A quirky fact: when modern satellites photographed the Apollo landing sites, showing rovers, footprints, even the descent stages, NASA expected silence. Instead, the internet exploded again. CGI, people said. Too clean. The irony? The better the resolution, the stronger the denial. Historians still argue whether skepticism is a symptom of intelligence or exhaustion. Maybe it's both. In an age where everything can be faked, even reality starts to look suspicious. You drift over the Sea of Tranquility again, the same spot where Armstrong took that first step. The prints are still visible, untouched. They are the last physical proof of belief. But to half the world, they're artifacts of theater. You wonder when that happened, when proof stopped being enough. Maybe it was the moment truth became downloadable, when every mystery could be paused, zoomed, reinterpreted, and re-uploaded with a new title and thumbnail. You hover closer. The lunar module stands like a monument to both fact and fantasy. Its foil gleams dully, its shadows impossibly long. You can almost hear the faint echo of Armstrong's voice, ghost-like across time. We came in peace for all mankind. But now it sounds less like triumph and more like irony. Historians still debate whether humanity's fascination with the moon is scientific or spiritual. But the conspiracy, in its own way, kept that fascination alive. It kept people looking up. Maybe that's the strange gift hidden inside the doubt. It sustains wonder. If you think the moon landing was faked, you're still obsessed with it. You're still haunted by it. And haunting is a kind of devotion. You drift backward through decades of obsession, through forums, VHS tapes, documentaries, memes. Each retelling adds another layer, like dust collecting on the surface of the story, until one day the conspiracy stops being about facts and becomes something mythic, like Atlantis or Eden. A quirky aside, even NASA's modern Artemis missions, the ones designed to return humans to the moon, are met with comments asking, "Why fake it again?" The irony is complete. Reality now has to prove itself against fiction. And maybe that's the greatest consequence of the Apollo era. Humanity learned to film its miracles before it learned to believe them. You glance once more at Earth's horizon, at the swirl of clouds and continents. The planet that built the technology to touch another world also built the doubt to erase it. Progress and paranoia orbit each other like binary stars. And somewhere in that orbit, you understand the real story isn't about NASA or rockets or Kubrick. It's about us. About the way humans create gods, tear them down, then worship their ruins. You float in silence for a moment, feeling that duality settle over you like lunar dust. Heavy, quiet, permanent.
You're falling back toward Earth now, though it doesn't feel like descent. It feels like recognition. The atmosphere below glows faintly, streaked with clouds that look like memory itself, constantly shifting. The moon is behind you, smaller now, but you can still feel its pull, a quiet reminder that belief and doubt have their own kind of gravity. Down there on Earth, the story continues without you. Late-night hosts joke about the moon landing. Influencers debunk it, then re-debunk it. Politicians use it as a shorthand for deception. The phrase, "if they can fake the moon landing," has become cultural currency, a punchline and a prophecy. It's strange, isn't it? The more time passes, the less this story belongs to history, and the more it belongs to folklore. A quirky fact, surveys show that nearly 1 in 10 Americans and more than half of young adults in some countries believe the moon landing was faked. They don't need evidence, they need narrative. In an era defined by mistrust, a clean lie feels safer than a messy truth. Historians still argue whether this skepticism is dangerous or merely inevitable. After all, technology has made the impossible ordinary. CGI renders galaxies on demand. Deepfakes mimic anyone's face. Reality no longer needs physics, it needs editing software. You drift through the haze of low orbit, passing satellites blinking like artificial stars. Each one beams data, proof, precision, and yet none of it convinces the human heart. The truth, it turns out, doesn't travel well through wires. And that's the paradox you keep circling back to. The moon landing happened because humans believed they could do it. The conspiracy survives because humans believe they couldn't. Same imagination, opposite direction. You think of the footage one last time. The slow, drifting figure in bulky white, the ghostly dust swirling under his boots. Whether filmed in space or Nevada, it still moves you. It still feels like something worth believing in. Maybe that's what the skeptics misunderstand. The moon landing isn't sacred because it was proven. It's sacred because it was dreamed. Humanity pointed at an unreachable world and said, "Let's go there." Even if someone faked it, the aspiration itself was real. A quirky aside. In 2019, NASA restored some of the lost Apollo tapes from backup data, cleaning the footage to near-perfect clarity. When they released it online, conspiracy channels used it as evidence of new tampering. Proof reborn as doubt. Reality turned recursive. Historians still debate whether we've reached a point where truth can even exist without irony. The moon landing seems to prove both sides at once. It's an act of impossible faith and the perfect stage for disbelief. You pass through the upper atmosphere, feeling heat,
pressure, gravity reclaiming you. Earth's surface comes into focus. Continents, oceans, the glow of cities pulsing like synapses. It's beautiful, fragile, and complicated, just like truth. The moon fades completely now, a pale coin lost in the distance. You realize it doesn't matter whether we faked it or not. What matters is that we wanted to. We needed something to chase, something to touch beyond ourselves. And maybe that's the real miracle. Not the landing, not the footage, not even the rockets, but the hunger itself. The desire to see beyond the atmosphere, even if we fall back questioning what we saw. You smile, drifting through the quiet edges of Earth's shadow, knowing the story isn't ending, it's just coming home.
The air grows thicker, the blue deeper. You're descending through layers of atmosphere and memory, each one warm, familiar, and strangely forgiving. The moon has vanished behind you. What remains is its echo, a quiet hum in your mind, the residue of all that doubt, wonder, and light. You land softly, somewhere between the past and the present, where the story of the moon landing has become less about truth and more about human nature. Think about it. The event was supposed to mark humanity's arrival at cosmic adulthood. Instead, it revealed how fragile our belief systems really are. We built rockets that could cross 250,000 miles of space, but we never learned to cross the few inches between certainty and trust. You walk through a world still divided. Museums display lunar rocks under glass. Tourists take selfies beside replicas of Apollo modules. Kids learn about space through TikTok clips and memes. Half the comments below say, "fake." The other half say, "you're just jealous." The war never ended, it just changed resolution. A quirky fact: when Apollo 11's command module was opened after re-entry, the first smell that filled the air was burnt plastic, sweat, and something the astronauts described as lunar dust. A smell like spent gunpowder. They said it clung to their suits for days. For decades, scientists tried to recreate it and failed. It remains a scent that exists only on the moon and in memory. Historians still argue whether that detail matters. To some, it's proof of authenticity. To others, it's just another flourish in a too-perfect tale. But to you, it feels poetic. Proof that truth itself can leave residue, even when no one agrees what it means. You pause, listening to the faint hum of the world. Maybe it doesn't matter who faked what. Maybe the real story is that humans need mystery. Without it, there's no reason to look up. If NASA did lie, it would only prove that we wanted to believe badly enough to be fooled. And if NASA didn't lie, then humanity really did climb into the dark and touch eternity. Either way, it says the same thing. We are creatures desperate to matter. You close your eyes and picture the footprints, those small, quiet depressions in the dust, still there, waiting for no one. Proof or metaphor? It doesn't matter anymore. The story has transcended its evidence. It's no longer about where we went, but what we imagined when we thought we could go. Historians still debate whether the moon landing conspiracy will ever die. It won't. It doesn't need to, because myths are just truths wearing different costumes. And somewhere out there, floating in the same cold orbit, both the lie and the miracle exist side by side, frozen, eternal, luminous. You exhale, long and slow. The static is gone. Only silence remains.
The air is still now. You feel weight return, a soft gravity pulling you back into your body. The hum of space fades into the quieter rhythm of breath, heartbeat, time itself slowing down. You imagine the moon, distant, patient, unmoved by every argument ever waged in its name. It doesn't care whether we believed the landing was real or not. It simply reflects. It always has. And maybe that's its secret. The moon never defends itself. It lets humans do the storytelling. You sit with that thought as your mind drifts, your heartbeat sinking with the slow turn of Earth. For all our doubt, for all our suspicion, humanity did something remarkable that night in 1969. We created a moment where the impossible felt small enough to fit inside a living room screen. Whether that screen showed truth or illusion doesn't change what it meant. It meant hope. The noise fades further. All the theories, the pixels, the forums, the documentaries, each dissolving into background static. You feel the quiet wonder that comes after the questioning, when disbelief finally softens into curiosity again. The moon is still out there, floating in eternal half-light. The footprints, real or imagined, still hold their shape. The shadows still stretch forever. You realize now that the point was never to prove anything. It was to reach, to risk, to tell a story large enough to hold our fears and our dreams at once. You breathe in the stillness, exhale the noise. The earth turns slowly beneath you, a sphere of light in the endless dark. Whatever the truth was, it has already become legend, and legends are how humanity dreams while awake. Somewhere between the signal and the silence, the fact and the fable, you find peace. And as your thoughts drift weightlessly through that vast, quiet sky, the static fades to nothing.